There was an organization that was referred to as the Order of the Rose, and this was an elite group that was at the very top of what I was aware of for the implementation of the New World Order through mind control of the masses.
Should you not mention the United Nations just recently adopted the rose as their official flower?
This Order of the Rose, by everything I know, was attached to the United Nations. George Bush, of course, began with the United Nations. He continued his work in the United Nations through his good friend and associate, Madeleine Albright. Madeleine Albright is now our UN ambassador, or not our UN, but the United States' UN ambassador. And this Order of the Rose was not so much another organization like we hear about, like the Illuminati or the Masons or something like that, but instead was used as an indicator to each other amongst those at the top that they were involved in implementing the New World Order through mind control of the masses. George Bush was involved in the Order of the Rose, and Bill Clinton was involved in the Order of the Rose.
What is your personal contact and contents to that topic? You met with people personally. You saw them wearing various symbols which remind people of that rose colors and everything else.
Yes, they would wear a rose as an indicator to each other that they were a part of the Order of the Rose. And
when it's happened and how you describe that? When you saw that particular phenomenon?
For example, at the White House, I was at a White House cocktail party and during the Reagan administration. And
do you remember the year and the members, anything like month and something like that?
It was, I believe, 1985 to 86. And at that time, the Prime Minister of Canada, Brian Mulroney, was brought to the White House. He was being honored at this particular cocktail party. He wore the rosebud on his lapel to indicate that he was a part of this Order of the Rose.
You saw him, you personally, at that party? There
Yes,
was some
I
kind
did.
of a closed party, closed society, without presence of the journalists, I believe, right?
I'm not aware of any journalists that were there. There were quite a few people that were at this particular cocktail party. Not all of them wore roses. The ones that did certainly indicated to me, since I knew, that they were part of this Order of the Rose.
Who was there on the party? Who was
George
in the party?
Bush, Madeleine Albright, and Ronald Reagan, Senator Byrd, to name a few.
One interesting thing, there was a presidential helicopter that crashed in the state of Maryland in 1993, I believe in June of 1993. That was a helicopter that Bush used with some frequency. And one of the odd things about it was, instead of having the presidential crest embroidered into the seats, it had a rose. Now, Kathy O'Brien had reported a rose that was embroidered into the leather seats of a helicopter in 1990 to the FBI when she gave her testimony. But it wasn't until 1993 that we actually got corroboration of that through a news report when a presidential helicopter actually crashed with, of course, no one in it of any importance as far as politically goes. But nevertheless, the helicopter did crash, and photographs of the seats were taken.
So that photographs available?
Yes,
in that respect?
yes.
Yes, sir, and the rose indicator was, that I saw in George Bush's helicopter was black. This black rose was an indication of death. The red rose was an indication that I would be used in sexual mode for prostitution purposes. The white rose was an indicator that messages were being delivered. When baby's breath was surrounding the rose or the rosebud, it was an indicator that my daughter Kelly was usually involved in that particular operation, which meant that she was going to be sexually abused as well.
These were her cues. These were visual cues that the person delivering them would be privy to, Boog, but no one else.
And these, in the course of using these particular cues, they would simply touch the rose to access a particular program message or to program one in. That wasn't all that it took to set the program. There was so much that was done at the onset, so much trauma that I witnessed that had caused my mind to be primed for accepting program, and this base program was already laid. From the base program, other programming, specific programming, the delivering of messages was then added, or the particular sexual perversion that had to be fulfilled was added, and then they were ready to be accessed, and when it was time to be accessed, they would simply touch the
You just mentioned that you were testifying in front of FBI.
Yes.